All right, so the hair's coiffed. Anyways, so this is going to be talking about the 2030 countdown now that science has officially admitted that we are fucked in 12 years. Part of this is going to be shooting from the hip, and part of this is not because I do have a script. So bear with me, the script is a bit long, but I'm just going to preface all of this by saying that, hey, millennials, you guys are the most consumer saturated fucking morons on the planet. Now, I'm sorry if I call you morons because you guys, like, you scream for things because you want to see change, but you don't do anything to change what you want to see changed. And as Gandhi, as you are all prone to talking about Gandhi, Gandhi says, be the change that you want to see, which means you literally, if you start screaming that you want something done, you need to stop doing it. So if all of a sudden you're on a cause for, you know, human rights and stuff, you need to start doing all of your research and literally boycotting major companies. And a lot of you will say, well, if we boycott major companies, like if I'm the only one boycotting them, then like, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The hipsters kind of had it right. Because the hipsters kind of like, they did stuff that if you followed some of that model, you could actually make a movement and people could affect the change that they need against massive corporations. So here we go. It's 12 years till doomsday. By 2030, according to science, we're fucked. Who's to blame? We all are. But what infuriated me more was realizing how stupid millennials really are. Sorry if this hurts your feelings and you fall into that age group, but let's look at why the biggest generation in history that could rightfully affect change isn't affecting change. The internet, for starters. Let's talk about how many devices we have to connect to it. Phones, pads, laptops, desktops, watches, and everything else, which escaped my thought. All this so we can peer into the lives of others, the leftover remnants of my generation's need for reality TV stars, the desire for fame became because of the Kardashians and others, namely the handful of famous YouTube channel stars and Instagram famous people. All this all this leading us to need tech to film every part of our lives. That tech is raping the earth, but millennials don't see this, nor do their parents, because it all happens in countries like the Philippines, where the governments are paid huge money to mine in the rainforest, leaving toxic pools of acid like water, which destroy the habitat and our leftovers after the companies have come in and stripped the earth of alloys needed to make our electronics. Consumers are stupid and blind, yet they clamor for climate change, do nothing to stop the capitalist greed for all things new and all things new and non-eco-friendly. Because companies force us to update so they can grow their profits and build more mines and strip more land and never repair the damages because they do it in third world countries, away from the eyes of you, the Western nations. Do a Google search on lithium batteries. You know the ones. Tesla uses them to run supposedly eco-friendly cars. They're not eco-friendly at all. They're just as bad as every other car on the planet. Lithium mining is just as toxic as and or actually worse than mining for bitumen, oil, or tar sands. There is a difference though, one even Hollywood ignores. When it comes to preaching on Canadian soil about the horrors of oil, one that even people in British Columbia are too stupid to know because they feign ignorance over education. They get all emotional like everybody else when it comes to a political thing. Oh my god, it's so evil, it's so evil. Let's just take the first thing we're told, which is it's evil, and like let's apply that cuz that sounds good. Instead of due diligence, the history of Fort Mac, images of Fort Mac, the origins and starting points of companies like Suncor in Fort Mac. All right. Canadian oil companies are under contract by the federal government to fix and repair the damage caused by mining or, within the tar sands. The front end of Fort McMurray was once an oil sand. It used to be a vast pit of tar, water, and destruction, and now, 20 plus years later, you drive over it, through it, and it's forest. It's an ecosystem once more because Big Oil followed through on their contractual promise to repair the damage caused by pulling out bitumen, separating oil from sand. Um, Truthfully, a lot of city dwelling kids in Alberta don't even know about the history of Fort McMurray. They take their modern, liberal, educated stance against oil, whatever the university education tells them, and never really pay attention to the devil that they know. This is why the dude who wrote Avatar needs to shut the fuck up because he didn't do any research. He just came up here, spouted off a bunch of crap, and he was actually completely wrong. So if he had gone to the Philippines and complained about how corrupt the governments are down there and how they just take money for, and allow this stuff to happen in the Philippines, then I would have said, hey, James Cameron, you're smart, go hard. But he didn't. He came to Canada. We are not a dumb people, and I'm not saying the Philippines aren't either, but we're not corrupted. We have federal laws, rules, and guidelines to follow, and we follow them. All right, so back on track. Truthfully, okay, so oil is a selling point to our world. Oil is in everything we do. It runs the machines that make our electronics. It is our electronics, as it's the plastic, PVC, rubber to hold it all together. Oil is in Tesla cars. It's in the paint, the metal, the very machines that make the car itself, the machines that mine the lithium. Everything needs oil. Look about your house. Look at their plastics, from Tupperware to toothbrushes to anything not animal product based. Even within animal base comes oil manufacturing, so you have to ask yourself, how much effect am I really having screaming about oil when I'm not actually preventing the production and use of oil in my everyday world? How many people scream for change about how we buy our groceries? Do we really believe that all that packaging that organic wholesalers sell us is biodegradable? And in such a manner as will biodegrade without specific needs like specific heat temperature, specific amount of connection to the sun, all these different environmental needs to break down certain plastics like corn-based plastic. Corn-based plastic is biodegradable when heated. Sitting in a landfill, it won't break down. It needs specific environmental occurrences to break down. And I read from sciencefocus.com. Biodegradable plastics take 3 to 6 months to decompose fully. That's much quicker than synthetic counterparts that take several hundred years. Exactly how long a biodegradable bag takes to break down depends on various factors such as temperature and the amount of moisture present. The bags aren't always as friendly as they seem. They're made from similar read oil, chemical-based materials to conventional plastic, only with compounds added that cause them to disintegrate gradually in the presence of light, read sunlight, or oxygen. So, when you have a mound of plastic that's corn-based, and you have this external level, but you have this internal level, and this internal level is not seeing sunlight, is not getting oxygen, is not getting exposed, the only part that's breaking down is right here. Now, maybe over time this will break down and weather will come in and move 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 in. But corn-based plastic, if it needs that, and it's only this that's getting affected, well, this is getting more shit put on it daily, as we will see later. Bioplastics made of cornstarch and other plant-based materials are better. They give off CO2 as they decompose. They're merely expelling carbon locked in the plant matter that originally formed them. The net effect on the environment is therefore close to zero. So we need bioplastics of cornstarch and other plant-based materials because, well, they don't have any of that other shit. But here's a problem with that. A, nobody's making them. B, if I tell you that you now have to pay $2 a plastic bag for the next 10 years until they drop in price, you're going to fucking freak out and you're going to be mad and you're not going to want to pay $2 out of your pocket every time you go to the grocery store and you need a plastic bag. So therefore, you're culpable again to why the world is fucked. But who's demanding these bags be made? Who's willing to pay the dollar or two it would cost to incorporate this on a mass scale? Not me, not you. We're banning plastic or trying to, but it always comes back to cost and use. People scream murder when they have to pay. Look at a gas tax, which is happening in Canada. Look at plastic bag taxes. 5 cents a plastic bag, 1 cent a plastic bag, whatever it is. Look at anything that makes the consumer responsible. They all freak out. This isn't a protest. There isn't a protest to force corporations to cut into their profit. Instead, we blame the government. Case in point, the gas taxes of Alberta. Every major oil company in Alberta could literally swallow their, loss, a couple $1 million a year, and, shut the fuck up and just be like, hey, we're helping the economy. But you know what they're not doing? They're not swallowing that $1 million margin loss. So because what they're saying is they're going to claim that it's saving jobs because as long as they have this much money, they can have this many people and blah, blah, blah. And on some scales, yeah, that's true. But you know what? as a mass profit margin where the CEOs and all those people could lose a few dollars, that's where the margins should be cut into. That's where they should be saving money. That's where, those rich people should be helping those who are not so rich. But they don't. And so we get the gas tax, and the federal government institutes it, and it really is about the companies needing to cut their losses. But they don't. So everybody blames the government because why it's all the government's fault that, they started this dumb idea of saving the planet. But that's none of my business. All right. Instead, we blame the government. We blame anyone but ourselves because we don't want to say it's not our, because we want to say it's not our fault that we are alone. We alone are conditioned to want to not to need these things. In other words, we are born into mass frenzy of purchasing. Again, I go back to millennials. Millennials are, demand to be on the internet, demand to see everything, video everything, photograph everything. So what is it? Tech, 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 tech. Tech is not cheap. Tech is not made with biodegradables. And tech is made to be disposable within 2 years. An HP laptop today literally will break down in 2 years. That is what HP does. They want you to buy a new laptop, so they give you a shit one. You spend $800 to $1,000 or $1,200, and in 2 years you're spending $800 to $1,200 again. Now, there is or was Mac. This is actually one of the only things about Apple that I like. That Mac does last. It does, the tech on Mac is somewhat sustainable, but not very, because it's still made the same way everything else is. So, diapers. Let's talk about diapers. Plastic bags on your kids' arse because parents don't want to do tons of laundry because inertia, laziness, sanitation, and more. Yet billions of pounds of diapers fill up landfills every year and they will never biodegrade. But do we see people complaining? No, because convenience. So again, we're back to square one. Not all the products we think are making a difference are even working. So when you shop at a grocery store, how much of what you purchase is good for the environment? Plastic surrounds everything you buy. Saran wrap on meats, styrofoam bases, and on and on. Walk the aisles. Look at all the wax cardboard that can't be broken down after its use. All the kitchen appliances in that one aisle that will inevitably sit for months or years and only be recirculated, returned to the manufacturer, and updated for new plastic, oil, steel pieces. So again, not sustainable, not environmental, and not healthy. How many things do you buy that are coated in non-recyclable packaging? How about aluminum? We recycle cans, but the fact is we don't really do a lot with the compacted cans except ship them to China, let them sit over there in a landfill and rot in the environment. Now, I did look this up because years ago there were, I think it was National Geographic actually, and was showing you like massive squares of recycled aluminum. And they, according to that data, they were sending all of these like big chunks, like ton-sized chunks of aluminum to China. Now, the other thing with China is two things with China. One, they were taking our aluminum just to store it somewhere and let it sit somewhere and rot and do nothing. The other thing with China is that's where we send all of our tech. There are burning areas in China where they literally melt. They take our garbage and then they burn our garbage. And one of the things that they used to burn were our computers. So all of the plastic, all of the shit that's in the computers is sitting on a fire, and it's going. All the wind is going down to a little village that is completely innocent to this, but now they're being poisoned with all of this toxic smoke. So yeah, you want to talk about sustainability and you want to talk about making a fucking difference? None of you are making a fucking difference, and this is why we're fucked. In my province, we receive non-recyclable leaflets from our local, municipal, and federal government. These are parties that claim to be committed to change, yet they send out colorful wax-covered cardboard or papers that cannot be broken down again because they're already colored or they're wax-covered. The next time you go to the Halloween store this month, look around at the wonder of all the oil-based plastic that is used to house all your special fresh items. When you go to Best Buy or another retailer, look at all the packaging. Ask yourself why Sony doesn't give a discount to people who download versus buy a disc almost exclusively with oil, or Xbox or any of these. Go to a video game store, look around at all the oil used to make all those products. Hit up comic conventions and look at all the kids using cosplay and how much of their costumes are oil-rich costumes. Now let's go back to Sony and Xbox and DVDs and shit. Why is it we, the consumer, haven't complained yet that we should be getting, a movie shouldn't cost us more than $20, $30 to download it? And if we do want to physically own it, because there are some people that have that OCD issue, why are those people not paying the $60 and we're getting the discount because we're downloading it? Why is that not happening? Why is it I'm paying $80 for a video game to download on PS4, but I can go buy the same game for $80 in the store and commit to killing the environment further because, all that plastic, the DVD, everything like that. There's no discount given to people for being smarter about how they're getting their tech, right? Now, the question becomes also, while I'm saying this, who is benefiting the environment more? Is it the person buying the DVD game, or is it the person downloading? Because if you're downloading, that means you're going through a network of stuff. So then you have to bring in the numbers of how much effect all that networking has on the environment versus literally just taking yourself to a store and buying it. Okay? But again, there is no discount for people who don't buy discs. The people who download still pay full price, and I think that's bullshit. I don't think that's fair at all, because I think if you're going to make the conscious effort to wait for a video game online, which can take 2 to 4 hours sometimes, you should get a discount for that shit. Because you're being efficient, you're being healthy, you're being, and again, it goes back to the numbers. So let's go back on point. Look at all the baubles in the Comic-Cons, the plastic miniatures, all your photos, look at the environment. Ask yourself how much of that environment is eco-friendly. It most likely isn't. It's most likely killing us. Now, get to the point about vegan, the buzzword we love. Vegan is another term rephrased for plastics for fucking millennials. It is not, in fact, the savior. It is quite the opposite. Now, here's a couple pieces from Alden Wicker on a piece from craftsmanship.net, which was borrowed later by treehugger.com. First, almost all leather is an inevitable byproduct of today's food industry. No cow has ever been killed to make a pair of shoes. See, millennials don't know that. They just think, oh my god, leather is evil. The price of a hide doesn't justify raising an entire cow unless it's sold for meat. A hide can cost you $400 at a store. So imagine what that is wholesale. $100 just for a hide? Like, are you kidding? That's not enough money to raise a cow. It costs thousands of dollars to raise a cow. Second, it turns out that if livestock are raised more naturally on dry grasslands where their kind grew up, instead of on cleared rainforests or overcrowded feedlots, they can make arid land fertile again. In other words, they become eco-friendly and eco-useful. That change, along with the innovations in livestock feed, also can reduce the methane gas they generate. Third, in many cases, eating meat is a more efficient way to consume calories than depending only on plants. In fact, one study found that a vegan diet actually requires more land use than a vegetarian in some omnivorous diets. And fourth, a good leather jacket, belt, or pair of shoes will last years, if not generations, mostly years now because they don't make leather like they used to. And isn't that how sustainability is supposed to work versus your, oh my god, look, it's vegan, oh my god, like, it's the latest from, like, whoever, right? And, like, it's, like, so eco-friendly. It's fucking plastic, you morons. It is literally PVC or some knockoff plastic oil-based shit that's far more polluting than the leather on a cow. But you guys don't know that because you're all like, buzzword, buzzword. And you're dumb because you don't research. Now, let's go to Lululemon, who was sued for selling seaweed threaded stuff. You cannot thread seaweed. Seaweed is biodegradable the minute it comes out of the water, okay? Seaweed disintegrates immediately, but you guys went and bought Lululemon with seaweed in it, thinking, oh my god, buzzword, vegan, No. So, treehugger.com, Lulu's, Zappa's, and Amazon use their vegan sections as a dumping ground for throwaway shoes of dubious origins made by conventional brands. It might technically be vegan, but it's basically fast fashion. Cheap clothing made in Asia that will fall apart and be thrown away with 1 or 2 seasons, glossed over with a sheen of ethicality. Once again, buzzword stupidity. So then that brings us back to how stupid the consumer is, no matter what age, generation, or what have you. And what's worse, all this demand for change from corporations, but zero connectivity to our daily lives. So in other words, we refuse to give up everything we complain about. So then what are we? We're basically hypocrites, lazy, apathetic, and we are useless. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about all of this is a keyword that's been in here and what the buzzword to veganism and all this shit is sustainability. We don't make sure that a corporation makes a computer that's going to last me 10 years and the tech is going to be guaranteed for at least 5 to 7 of it before it ruins itself. We buy brand new cell phones every 2 years because contracts come up every 2 years, and we don't ask Samsung or Sony or LG or any of these companies to make sustainable telephones that will last us 5, 15, 20 years because, oh my God, I need to be updated. I need new, 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 new. And none of it's sustainable. Your vegan shit isn't even vegan. It's not even fucking, it's plastic. It's PVC. Go look at what it's made from. It's all fake and it's all crap because it's not sustainable and it's sure as shit not eco-friendly. But everybody's like, oh my God, like buzzwords, and I'm gonna be like a hipster, and I'm gonna go eat vegan food, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna, but none of you do anything like research. And so you take your buzzwords and you take your fads and you take your Instagram moments and you're like, oh my God, look at me. And it's all a fucking lie. Your heads are so far up your asses that you don't even see what's in front of you. You don't even see the problem that you're creating because you don't do your research. You don't think about the consequence to what you're demanding. And then all of a sudden it's too late. And guess what, kids? It's fucking too late now. So let's look at what you're doing and, let's start admitting that we need to make some massive changes to ourselves, which means let's hold on to our cell phones for 5 years. Let's hold on to our computers for, as long as they're going to last. Let's stop buying all the brand new tech and all the brand new earphones and all the brand new, tablets and PCs and all this other shit and the latest games and blah, blah, blah. And let's also start demanding, like, make some movements and demand that corporations start becoming culpable. Stop making you the little guy who's being told and you're being forced to demand something by a corporation. It's time to reverse that table. It's time to wake up and start doing this for the fucking environment and for the future, if there is any other future. I used to hate Elon Musk because Elon Musk wants to send our parasites to other planets. Well, guess what? It looks like the only way to save this planet is to send us, the parasite, off of it. Think about that.